Welcome back to today's video. We are finishing the second part of the Moonlight hares. So today we're just going to concentrate solely on the hares themselves, make sure we get those completed, and then next week we will do all the other little bits we'd like to do, like the mushrooms, toadstools, I don't know, fairies, whatever we fancy in the next one. In this one here I've done this brown on the hares themselves, but I do go back later on and go over it with more of a grey colour because I'm not really keen on the redness of this. I wasn't sure, I don't think hares are completely this red, so I wanted to give them a bit of a more grey feel to them. So if you don't want to do this part of the hair in this colour, then leave this and come back with the other grey colours later. But it has to be said that although I did this and went over it, because I do it in layers, some of this actually showed through and it did look really nice. It helped to add to the furry look. So the choice obviously is yours entirely. But I actually, if I were going to do it again, this picture, I actually probably would still do this first. And all I'm doing here mainly is just blocking in and filling in, as I like to give myself a base to work on. And it's roughly using the, I'm marking in roughly where the lights and the darks will be. It's a bit of a less chatty video this week as I'm still getting over a throat infection, so there might be a few more quiet gaps, but it's just that for this week. Sorry about that. The colour I go into in a minute to help do these hairs, make them a little more grey, is this colour here. I love it. It's from World of Wool and I'm sure it's called Pewter, and this particular one is a merino, but I like it so much I use it for everything. And you can see how I'm laying it on here now in long strands, which helps to give the fur look. It will get felted in well, it's not going to be loose on the top, but it does help to give that furry look. And I use this colour Pewter for everything from bricks to shadows and apparently for hair fur. So, you know, if you get colours from World of Wool and you're going to do paintings like I do, pictures, then I really recommend getting it. Don't buy it all because I need some. And you can see I'm just literally taking that colour but very finely and just laying it over the underneath colours, and it's going in the direction, because it's merino and it's got the longer strands, I'm putting it in the direction the fur would grow from on the hair. This obviously is a more of a white colour, but again this is merino. You can do all this in carded wool. I just happen to have these colours and things, so I use them. But you can see the advantage of the merino where I put it on in the strands and it does give the furry look. Also, when I'm felting the fur in, I actually use the needle in the direction the fur grows. I feel it helped. I don't know whether it really does or not, whether it's just me, but I thought it helped. As you can see, I'm working down the leg and I'm not going side to side. And as always with all the pictures I do, that I say to you is I very rarely use just one plain colour. I do mix the colours, and especially if you're doing fur, you want to mix some lighter bits, lighter browns, you know, with some of the darker browns, and you do it that way, and then you can add extra light and make the selection you've got lighter, or you can add extra dark and make it darker. I hope you're following me. But it means that when you put it on the fur itself, it's got all those shades that you'd have in natural hair, so you're not fighting with it. You can put it down and you've got all sorts of different colours straight away, and it looks much more realistic. If that didn't make sense, leave me a comment and I'll try and explain it better. And obviously along with that is, if you have other ideas for pictures that you'd like me to have a go at for you, then please do leave a comment below and I will have a look at them. This one was created from someone's comment on a Facebook page I work on, and they asked if I could do hair and toadstools and moonlight. So I thought it was such a nice idea. This is where this came from. I hope you can see here how that colour is working over the brown. And that brown underneath does work in the end, because, as I say, although you can see through it, you can see through the top coat, it really does actually give some depth to it, so I'm not totally unhappy that I used it. These dark areas aren't using black. The only place I'm going to use black on the hairs at all will be the pupils of their eyes and just to define their mouths. So I very rarely ever use black because it's too harsh. So if you have a nice dark brown to do these bits with, do it with that. Or you can mix some black with the dark brown, but don't just use straight black. I'm showing you a close-up here of how I do the eyes, but I actually go back in later. This is perfectly fine, copy what I'm doing, but I do go back in later and change them slightly because I think I made them too big. And so I just went back in and redid exactly the same thing you're seeing here. I just made them a bit smaller. I fibbed about the black. I do outline the hare's eyes in black as well. And the white bit is the bit that brings the eye to life, makes it look wet. So you really do need to make sure you remember to put yourself a dot. I've actually got a dot here and a very fine line just going around the black as well, if you have a look. I like to do the eye first on the head because it brings the animal to life, and for me it just helps me do the head better. I have no idea why, it's just a thing for me that I like to have it staring back at me, I guess. Yes, you see, because if you look at the eye on the one I'm working on now, the one behind, it's definitely too big. Yes, this yellow does look scary, but what I'm aiming for is, because the hare's ear is so thin, thickness of, of the skin, the moonlight being so bright would shine through it. So I'm trying to give it a more translucent look. So I started off with the heavy yellow, and I just keep layering up little bits of beige and things. Again, for something like this, you can have obviously refer to this picture, but it might help you if you have a picture of a hare's ear that you can look at as well. It probably wouldn't be this yellow, but I'm indulging myself a little bit because it's a fantasy picture. And while we're talking ears, the ear on the small hare in the background, the young hare, the one nearest the moon, I actually made too small, so you'll see me later go on and make that longer. I secretly keep thinking I'm doing rabbits. This is just the veins in the hare's ear. That's another thing that you'll see me do a lot, is use the tip of my needle to brush the fur in the direction it's supposed to go. If it were growing on the animal, I just keep brushing the wool in that direction. If you notice, I do a lot of things in the same way I do my trees. I do the dark first and then layer up over it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe the video if you find some value in them, because I'm trying to grow my channel and it would make such a difference. A lot of people watch it and I'm very pleased they do, but they don't all subscribe, which is a shame. So if you're enjoying it, please would you consider subscribing for me. Thank you. Here I'm laying in the colours for the face now, and all I'm doing is I'm grabbing bits and pieces of the wool I've already mixed up. I'm not too fussed about what the colours, other than the browns, obviously the hair colours, what they are. I'm literally just using them to put my first layer down onto the hare's face so that I can build from it. So there's going to be lights and shades in all the wrong place, and I'm not worried about that at all. I'm just using it as an undercoat. I never like to waste any of my wool. Now here I've started, obviously, I've done the same thing I did with the fur on the body. Layered it down, and then I'm just using the colours to build up the lights and the darks. It can be quite difficult to show you this because obviously my hand's in the way a lot of the time, so I do try to cut out the bits where you're just watching my fingers go up and down. You see that eye on the hair behind is really annoying me now, even just looking at it, because it's just too big. But I do go back and change it, so that's okay. Again, here you can see thin layers in the direction I want the hair to look like it's growing. Now, well, if you look up at the ear that we did with the bright yellow, you can see it actually looks, well, I think it does, it looks okay now. It looks quite translucent, like the light's actually coming through it. For me, this is the secret to building things up, is to layer it finely and just keep layering. But of course, at the end of the day as well, lots of people do things in different ways, so just because I do it this way, it doesn't mean it's the best way. It's just the way I do it. So as you do your pictures, you'll develop your own ways to do things. I didn't want to speed up the hairs too much for you. I've tried to leave it with most of it, you can actually see what I'm doing as I'm doing it, because I figured it's more helpful to do it that way than to just speed my way through it and you don't really know what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. Yes, I did speed this bit up, but this is just because I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm just layering the colours up. I'm not doing anything new, so you won't miss anything. And I noticed on my hair he had a little bit of an orange tint around his muzzle, so that's why I've put that there. It's just a hint. And this is where you can see how helpful it is to have that dark undercolour, because I'm just laying the thin bits over the top, but it's giving it real depth to the fur. You'll Please let me know in the comments if you find these videos a little bit too slow going. I can always speed them up for you. I just didn't want to rush through them, but I'm not sure whether people would prefer them to go a little faster and I can edit a bit more and not have quite so much detail talking about them, if you would rather I went through them a little faster. So please let me know in the comments if you prefer that, and I will see what people say. I'm basically making them how I would like them if I were a beginner, so that I could just sit and watch and see what someone's doing, but I know that they could be, you know, they may feel a little bit long-winded to some people. Although I do believe in the YouTube box somewhere you can speed things up or slow them down if you want to. I do catch on in the end that that ear's too small. It'll miraculously appear longer in a minute. This is where I decided that the hare's head was a bit small as well, so not only was his ear dodgy, poor thing, he didn't have a big enough head. So I went back in and just put a bit of an extra outline and made his head slightly larger. What you can do if you decide to download the picture is use that as a reference. You could cut the head out of the picture or cut the whole body out and put that on your felt mat and needle felt around it first, almost like doing an outline. or draw around it, and then you can use it later on. You could cut, say, just the head out and make sure you've got the head the right size, things like that, or cut out where the eye would be in the picture and put your eye in through that. Just constantly layering up very slowly, bit by bit, different colours. See, his little face is starting to come together now, which is nice. If you have any ideas of things you might like added to this picture for my next video, then let me know in the comments as well, because I haven't actually done the last bit yet, so if it's in time I could possibly add it. I am talking things like mushrooms, toadstools, logs, fireflies, things like that, just things that would be in keeping with the picture. But if I get any comments in time, then and it's doable, I'll add them in, so you can have some input to the picture as well. He looks much better with his smaller eye and bigger ear. So this is one of the other times I do use black. And when you look at the little mouths and noses, they're just two upside down V's. And also the other thing I noticed with a hare's nose, it doesn't come down to a V at the actual nose part, it goes round like a U. I think we're all being watched by him now. just wanted a bit more definition on that little bit. And I thought I'd have a go at doing some whiskers. What I did in the end was I've obviously done the whiskers, but I've just done a few and given the impression of them because they're very, very fiddly to do. And because they're so fine, when you needle felt them in, they can start to disappear into the picture. So I didn't want to do too many. It does make a difference, so it does bring them to life a bit more. So it's worth doing. Just think they look quite sweet with the whiskers. So we've more or less finished the hairs now. There's only going to be odds and ends that in the last episode of this series I may go back and have a look at some more. So there we go, that's the end of this week's one. I look forward to seeing you next time when we will be doing all the other little bits and pieces, and don't forget to leave your comments if there's anything you'd like added. I've got a couple of days before I start the next one. So have a lovely day, happy felting, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.